The sun over Trade Post 7 burned hot and orange, casting long shadows on the busy walkway. Humans and aliens pushed past each other, shouting, trading, arguing. Callan, a tired human engineer, just wanted to get home. His shirt was clean for once, his toolbox heavy in his hand, and his stomach empty. He stepped out of the cafe, sipping his last cup of synth coffee when it happened. Splash. Something cold and wet struck his chest, soaking his shirt with a red-purple liquid. His coffee dropped, his mouth opened, but no words came out. He looked down at the mess, then up and froze. In front of him stood a girl, not human. She had silver-green skin, glowing yellow eyes, and soft white hair tied in a rushed braid. She looked young, maybe 20 in Earth years, small, thin, and completely panicked. I'm sorry, she gasped, her voice trembling. I didn't. See, I was running. I didn't mean to. She stared at the stain like she'd just spilled blood, not fruit ink. Then she dropped to her knees, pulled a cloth from her coat, and began to scrub his shirt. Right there in the middle of the walkway, Callan blinked, still frozen. People walked around them, muttering, but no one stopped. He stepped back gently. Hey, it's okay, it's just a shirt. But the alien girl didn't stop. No, please, she whispered. Let me fix. Let me wash, please. Her hands were shaking. Her eyes wet, not with tears but fear. Something was wrong. No one's going to hurt you, Callan said, voice calm, trying not to draw attention. She looked up at him, really looked at him, then whispered, You come with me, I wash it, I fix everything. I don't need, he started, but she grabbed his sleeve and pulled him hard. Before he could protest, she was already walking fast, tugging him along like a child afraid of being caught. And strangely, he followed. They passed narrow alleys, turned into darker streets, then reached an old rust-covered doorway. She tapped a strange code into a panel, and the door opened with a soft hiss. In, please, she whispered, her eyes scanning behind them fast. Callan hesitated, heart thudding, but stepped inside. The door slid shut behind them, locking with a loud click. The hallway was dim, the walls metal and scarred, smelling of oil and steam. Where are we? He asked. My place, she replied quickly. Safe here. I washed the shirt, don't worry. She led him into a small room filled with buckets, old fabrics, and a sink that hummed with faint energy. She took his shirt without asking and began scrubbing it carefully. Callan stood awkwardly, bare-chested now, his fingers tightening around the strap of his toolbox. You don't need to go through all this trouble, he said again. But she didn't answer. Her hands moved fast, trained as if she had done this before. Too many times. Then he noticed it, on her wrist, just under her sleeve. A metal band, blinking red, a tracker. His eyes narrowed. Are you a runaway? The girl froze, her scrubbing slowed. She didn't answer, but her shoulders trembled. I'm not going to turn you in, he said softly. But you need to tell me what's really going on. Still no reply. He took a slow step toward her and gently reached for her wrist. She pulled back, flinching like she expected pain. I'm not like them, Callan said. I won't hurt you. Finally, she looked up. I was property, she whispered, barely louder than a breath. Now I run. Her eyes filled with something between shame and desperation. They find me. They take me back. Callan's chest tightened. He knew how this world worked, how some species still use slaves, how laws changed from sector to sector, and he understood now she hadn't spilled that drink on accident. She had been trying to create a reason, any reason for a stranger to follow her, to help her. A knock echoed on the door. 3 sharp bangs. Taya froze, her hands gripping the wet shirt, her eyes wide with terror. They're here, she whispered. Please don't let them take me. Callan looked at the locked door, then at the broken window behind her. He had a choice now. Walk away and leave her to her fate, or help her escape. And risk everything. He didn't think for long. He reached into his toolbox, pulled out a plasma cutter, and looked at her. "If we're doing this, we're doing it right now," he said. She nodded, the tiniest flicker of hope in her eyes. Outside, the knocks grew louder, now with angry voices. Inside, a runaway alien girl and a reluctant human engineer prepared to disappear together, all because of one stained shirt, and the chase was only beginning. The door behind them rattled. Again. Louder this time, Taya's breath hitched and she backed up toward the sink, still clutching the half-washed shirt. Callan didn't ask questions now. He scanned the small room for exits, then pointed to a vent cover near the ceiling. "Can you fit through that?" he asked. Taya nodded fast. Yes, I used before." Callan climbed a crate, used his plasma cutter to slice the bolts and kicked the vent open. "Go now," he whispered, helping her up. She crawled in like she'd done it 100 times. Before, fast, silent, small. He handed her the shirt and his multi-tool. "Meet me where it ends." Bam, bam, bam. The pounding grew violent. Voices barked in alien tongue. Callan dropped down and wiped the sweat from his brow, his heart hammering. He opened the door halfway, toolbox in hand, wearing only a vest. "Yeah?" he said, trying to sound annoyed and sleepy. 3 armored guards stood outside, their helmets dark, their weapons glowing. "You seen a green-skinned female pass here?" one demanded. Callan yawned. "Nope, just came in from work. Shirt got stained. By some fruit vendor trying to clean it." One of the guards leaned forward, scanning his face. "You human?" "Yeah, last I checked," Callan replied with a dry smile. The guard stepped inside, pushing past him. They searched the tiny room roughly, knocking over crates, checking closets, even sniffing the air. But no Taya. No sign of anything suspicious. No hiding her as a crime," another guard warned. "Big reward if you see her again." Callan raised an eyebrow. "I'll keep that in mind." After another few moments, they left, the door slamming behind them. He exhaled slowly, then locked it again, turned to the vent, and whispered, "Please be okay." An hour later, at the far edge of the lower district, Callan found her waiting. Behind an old scrap shuttle, she was curled up tight, shirt still damp, eyes red. He knelt beside her and offered a small protein bar. "Eat." She took it with shaky fingers, then looked up, whispering, "You came." "Of course I came," he said. "I don't leave people behind." She looked at him for a long moment, then spoke quietly. "My name is not Taya." Callan tilted his head. "Then what is it?" She hesitated, then said, "Tilia, from the Moon Clan of Senar." He repeated it softly. "Tilia." She nodded. "Taya was the name they gave me when I was sold." Callan's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. Instead, he checked the surrounding area, then motioned toward a half-dead vending bot nearby. "Come on, we'll sleep inside. No one checks junk tech." They broke in through the back panel and squeezed inside. The rusty shell of the bot. Tilia curled into the corner while Callan sat cross-legged, arms crossed, eyes on the small hatch. "I need to know everything," he finally said, "so I can help." She nodded slowly, staring at the metal floor. "I was taken when I was little," she began. "My planet was poor, and humans came to trade, but others came to steal. One day I was gone from the market, woke up in a cold room with numbers on the wall." Callan listened silently, anger rising in his chest. "I was passed to a collector who breeds rare kinds," she said, her voice flat now, empty. "He wanted children from me, but I refused. They punished me, starved me, hurt me," she said, curling into herself. "I escaped when the guard fell asleep, but I have no place." She looked at him again, eyes sharp. "I bumped you on purpose. I needed someone who looked kind. I hoped you'd follow. I thought maybe you'd turn me in," she whispered. "But maybe you wouldn't." Callan sighed, shaking his head. "You really risked all that on a stained shirt?" She gave a tiny, broken smile. It worked. Silence filled the small space, only broken by the low hum of street generators outside. After a while, Callan pulled his vest tighter and said, "You can't stay here forever." Tilia nodded. "I know. I want to go where they cannot reach me, where I can live like real people." He thought for a moment, then muttered, I know a way off-world, but it's not easy. Talia's eyes lit up with a glimmer of hope. I'll do anything. Callan looked at her again, this time, not as someone who caused him trouble, but as someone who had lost everything yet still chose to survive. All right, he said finally. Then we make a plan. That night, they drew lines in dust, whispered route codes, and counted credits. One runaway girl with nothing but a name, and one tired man with a stained shirt. Neither knew what waited ahead, only that from now on, they were in it together. The morning in the lower district smelled like hot rust and bitter smoke. Talia peeked out from inside the broken vending bot, her eyes scanning every shadow. Beside her, Callan stretched his sore back, already holding his old datapad. Doc, patrol patterns changed last night, he said. They're looking for someone, probably you. Talia nodded, hugging her knees. Then we move fast. They made their way through narrow back alleys and cargo tunnels, staying low. Talia wore a cloak Callan had found in a trash bin, too big for her, but it covered the tracker. On her wrist, he had tried to disable it, but it blinked red again the moment she moved too far from his tools. It's bonded to your biosignature, he muttered, frustrated. We'll need a cleaner cut and a false signal. They reached a hidden spot behind the recycling station where old bots were left to die. Callan pried open the chest of a forgotten maintenance droid and started rewiring its core. This guy used to clean floors, he muttered. But now, he's going to carry you out of here. Talia frowned. I don't understand. Callan looked up and smiled slightly. We're smuggling you out in a trash bot. By noon, the plan was in motion. Talia curled up inside the cleaned droid shell, her breathing steady, body wrapped in scrap blankets to avoid scans. Callan set a fake repair order into the station grid, labeling the droid for transport to Bay 12, an off-world freight pad. If they scan too deep, it'll fail, he warned her, voice low. But if we're fast, it'll work. The bot rolled along the path, slow and clunky. Callan followed behind it, pretending to be a station tech on duty, wearing a fake ID chip he bought from a junk dealer. Guards glanced his way, but no one stopped him. Until one did. Hey, technician, a guard called, stepping forward. Where's your shift partner? Callan's stomach flipped, but he kept his voice casual. Called in sick, flu strain 98A. The guard raised a scanner, waved it across the droid, and frowned. Callan felt sweat running down his neck. Please don't scan deeper, please. The guard sighed. System still shows this thing headed to Bay 9. Callan forced a shrug. They keep changing bays without telling us. I'll fix it. The guard grunted and walked off, not caring enough to argue. The moment passed like a held breath, finally exhaled. At Bay 12, Callan rolled the bot inside the cargo area and closed the ramp behind him. Then he pried it open, whispering, Talia, you okay? She blinked up at him, her face pale but determined. Yes. Good, because we're not safe yet, he said, handing her a water pouch. The ship wasn't his, but he knew the layout. Freight runners always left the service compartment unlocked. They slipped into the maintenance hatch, hidden under a pile of old crates. The engines began to rumble, and slowly the ship lifted off the ground. They were leaving the planet. Talia looked out through a crack and whispered, It's working. Callan wasn't so sure. Just then, a small red light blinked on his datapad. Alert. Your tracker just pinged the system, he said sharply. Someone knows you're on this ship. Talia's eyes widened. What do we do? He grabbed her hand. We hide better. They crawled deeper into the ship's crawl space, past wires and pipes that buzzed with energy. Behind a panel, Callan set up a frequency jammer from his toolkit, just strong enough to block short-range scans. For now, they were ghosts. I thought the ship would feel safer, Talia whispered, curled beside him in the dark. Callan leaned back. Ships don't mean safety, he said. They just mean distance. Hours passed. Then a loud noise echoed above. Boot steps, voices. Sector scan shows a live signal in cargo hold, someone said over comms. Talia grabbed Callan's arm, fear rising again. We can't go back, she said. I won't. We won't, he promised, gripping her hand tightly. Suddenly, a panel above them slid open. A crew member peered down, shining a light directly into Callan's face. "What the hell are you doing in my ship?" The man demanded. Callan thought fast. "I'm an engineer. I was fixing a maintenance droid. It got reassigned." The man squinted, then looked at Telia, noticing the cloak, the fear, the collar peeking from under her sleeve. He sighed and climbed down. "My name's Dre, this is my ship," he said. "I don't like stowaways." Callan stood up, tense. "Then throw me off, but she stays." Dre looked at both of them, then at the blinking tracker warning on his tablet. "I don't deal in slaves," he muttered. "But you owe me answers." Tilia stepped forward, her voice steady now. "I was taken from my people. I only want to be free." Dre stared for a long moment, then sighed again. "Fine, but you both work double shifts till I say otherwise." Callan blinked, then smiled. "Deal." The hatch closed again. The danger passed. For now, Tilia leaned into Callan's side, whispering, "You didn't leave me." He whispered back, "I never planned to." And far behind them, the collector's agents traced the signal and followed. The ship floated through deep space like a ghost, engines humming softly. Tilia stood at the edge of the cargo hold, wrapped in a blanket, watching the stars through a small window. She had never seen them like this before, not through a cage, not from behind bars, just free. Callan sat nearby, fixing a damaged power coil, his hands moving with focus, but his mind wasn't at peace. The tracker on Tilia's wrist still blinked faintly, even after he jammed its signal. He knew it was only a matter of time before someone found them, and he was right. A loud ping echoed through the ship's comm system. "Unmarked vessel approaching, requesting docking," the automated voice said. Dre, the ship's owner, swore and ran to the console. "That's not normal," he growled. "This route isn't public." Callan walked up beside him, his voice low. "It's them." Dre glanced at Tilia, then back at Callan. "You brought heat to my ship." "I brought her safety," Callan shot back. "There's a difference." The unmarked ship locked onto them. Refusing to identify itself, Dre gripped the controls. "We can't outrun it." Tilia stepped forward, her voice calm but cold. "Then we hide again." Callan shook his head. "No, they'll board us. And this time, they'll bring more." Then scanners. Sirens blared as the enemy ship sent a docking spike through the hull. Metal tore like paper and air hissed through emergency seals. "Everyone below deck," Dre shouted. "Hide or fight, your choice." Callan grabbed his plasma cutter and tossed Tilia a stun blade. She stared at it, her hand trembling. "You ever use one?" he asked. "No," she whispered. "But I'll learn fast." Boots hit the ship floor. 4 enforcers in black armor marched in, weapons drawn. They scanned the cargo area, their voices echoing coldly. "Subject marked TE-213, show yourself, you are property of Lord Resha." Callan growled under his breath. Lord Resha must be desperate. He stepped out from behind the crates, holding the cutter like a weapon. "She's not property," he said loudly. "She's a person and she's under my protection." One enforcer raised his rifle. "You will be terminated for interference." Callan didn't move. "Try it." From behind the enforcers, Tilia leapt down with a cry, slashing one of them across the visor. The helmet sparked, and the man dropped with a thud. Callan used the distraction to fire his cutter, burning the side of another's armor. Dre tackled the third, slamming him into a bulkhead, while the fourth opened fire wildly. A bolt hit Callan in the shoulder. He stumbled, groaning. Tilia screamed his name, but he waved her back. "Don't stop, finish it." She turned, eyes glowing with rage, and stabbed the last enforcer in the leg, then the chest. He fell with a grunt, twitching. Silence filled the hold, broken only by Callan's ragged breathing. Tilia dropped the stun blade, ran to him, and pressed her hands to the burn on his arm. "You're bleeding," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I've had worse," he muttered, then smiled weakly. "You were amazing." Dre dragged the unconscious enforcers into a locked storage unit. "We need to dump their tracker tags before they wake," he said. "They'll call backup if we don't." Tilia sat beside Callan, still pressing against his wound. "You shouldn't have fought for me," she said softly. Callan looked into her eyes. Then who would? Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them away. "No one," she said. "No one ever did before." Dre returned with a data chip, tossing it to Callan. "Your shirt girl here just turned you into a target," he said. "They put a price on both your heads." "How much?" Callan asked, almost smiling. "Enough to make a bounty hunter lose sleep." Tilia closed her eyes, whispering, "He'll never stop hunting me." Callan took her hand, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. "Then we make it so he can't," he said. "We fight back." Dre raised an eyebrow. "You planning a war from a rust bucket?" Callan nodded slowly. "I know a place, a friend who owes me. He has tech, old Earth weapons." Tilia looked at him, her voice hopeful. "Will it be safe?" "No," Callan answered, "but it'll be our chance." Later that night, as the stars moved past the window, Tilia sat beside Callan and stitched his shirt with trembling hands. "I ruined it," she said quietly. "The shirt, your life." He touched her hand gently. "No," he said. "You gave me something to fight for." And far beyond them, in a room made of glass and gold, Lord Resha stared at a blinking screen. His enforcers were gone. His prize escaped. But his message was clear. Bring her back or burn the humans that hide her. The stolen cargo ship drifted in deep space, silent and slow. Its lights dimmed, its engines cooled, trying to disappear into the stars. Inside, Callan sat on a bunk with his shoulder bandaged, watching Tilia work on his shirt again. She moved, carefully, her fingers tracing each stitch with care, but her eyes were far away. She hadn't spoken much since the fight. "Hey," Callan said gently. "You okay?" Tilia didn't answer, but she paused, her hand tightening on the cloth. "I've been thinking," she whispered. "Maybe I should leave before I cause more damage." Callan leaned forward, surprised. "Is that what you really want?" She shook her head slowly. "No," she said. "But maybe it's what I deserve." "Why would you say that?" Callan asked, his voice calm. Tilia turned to him, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "You don't know what I am," she whispered. "What I was made to be." Callan didn't speak, just waited. She sat down across from him, holding the half-stitched shirt in her lap like a shield. "I wasn't born like you," she said. "I was grown. In a lab owned by Lord Resha." Callan blinked, but didn't interrupt. "There were many of us," she continued, her voice flat. "Girls with different traits, eyes, skin, voices, abilities." He wanted perfection, a living trophy, something no other collector could own. She looked away, her hands trembling now. "I was one of his favorites, not because I was smart or strong, but because I obeyed. I smiled when I was told. I stood still when they measured me. I stayed silent when they injected things into my veins." Callan's jaw clenched, but he said nothing yet. "One day, they brought in a child. Just a little girl," Tilia whispered, her voice cracking. She cried for her mother. "They told me to calm her down, to act like a sister. I did for days, until they took her away. I never saw her again." She buried her face in her hands, her voice muffled. "That's when I knew. No one was safe, not even the small ones. So I waited. I watched. And when the guard fell asleep, I took his key and ran." Silence filled the room like heavy fog. Then Callan finally spoke, his voice soft. "You did the bravest thing anyone could do. You ran. You didn't stay silent. You didn't accept it?" Tilia shook her head. "But I still feel like I'm not real. Like I was made, not born." Callan reached across the space between them and gently touched her hand. "Doesn't matter how you came into this world," he said. "You feel, you cry, you fight. That makes you real." Tears ran silently down her cheeks, but she didn't pull away. "Why are you so kind to me?" she whispered. Callan smiled sadly. "Because someone should have been kind to you a long time ago." Dre stepped in through the side door, breaking the moment. "We're approaching the asteroid belt," he said. This is where your friend's supposed to be? Kalen nodded. Yeah, deep in the rocks. He runs a repair bay under the name Hector. Crazy old tech genius, but he owes me. Dre grunted. He better, because the last ship that tried hiding in that belt didn't come out. Tilia stood up and wiped her eyes, her voice steady again. Then we'll make sure we do. As they neared the belt, Callan joined Dre in the cockpit, scanning for hidden beacons. Tilia sat behind them, watching the stars turn into sharp-edged, floating rocks. Suddenly a signal blinked on the console, coded, faint but familiar. Callan smiled. That's him. They followed the signal deep into the rocks, where a massive mining drill floated dead in space. Hidden inside it, Hector's base flickered to life, revealing hangars and lights buried under metal. They landed safely, but the moment they stepped out, automated guns locked onto them. Hector! Callan shouted. It's me, Callan. Still owe me that favor for the fusion leak job. A pause, then a crackling voice replied. Only if you brought decent whiskey. The guns lowered, and the door opened. Inside, the base smelled like oil, fire, and wires. A short, wide man with goggles met them grinning. You look worse than last time, Hector said to Callan, then glanced at Tilia. And you brought a girl. She needs help, Callan said. Tracker removal, new ID, new start. Hector scratched his beard. And trouble, I assume? Always, Callan replied. Tilia stepped forward. I don't want to run forever, she said. I want to live. Hector looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Then let's make you vanish, he said. And let's make Lord Resha regret ever building you. Deep inside the hollowed mining drill, Hector's workshop buzzed with sparks and fire. Tilia sat still in a metal chair, her arm strapped down gently as Hector leaned over her wrist. His tools hummed, tiny lasers flickering as he worked on removing the tracker buried under her skin. Callan stood nearby, tense, watching every movement. One mistake could fry her nerves, or worse, almost there. Hector muttered, sweat on his brow. The collector who made this thing wasn't messing around. Tilia clenched her jaw, breathing through the pain, her other hand gripping Callan's sleeve tightly. I'm okay, she whispered. Don't stop. Hector made one final adjustment, then pressed a green button. The tracker sparked, blinked twice, then went dead. A soft beep sounded and the light vanished from the band. Tilia gasped, blinking at the sudden silence in her own body. It's gone, she whispered, touching the bare skin. It's really gone. Callan smiled, but Hector didn't. You've got maybe a day, 2 at most, before they realize it stopped transmitting, he said. You need to disappear completely. We will, Callan said. But not yet. Tilia turned to him, confused. What do you mean? He looked her in the eye, serious. I don't want to keep running either. I want to send a message. Resha doesn't own you anymore. Tilia hesitated, her voice soft. What do we do? We hit one of his ships, Callan said. Steal data. Show the galaxy what he's been doing. Expose the other girls, the labs, the breeding programs. Hector raised both hands. Whoa, kid. You want to fight a collector with a stolen cargo ship, a runaway girl, and a half-broken tech bay? Callan nodded slowly. Yeah, that's the plan. Tilia stood beside him, her voice clear now. If we don't stop him, others will suffer. Hector sighed. You're both insane. Then he grinned. But I like it. That night they prepared. Hector gave Tilia a cloaking band, temporary and fragile, but enough to fool scanners. He upgraded Callan's plasma cutter into a short-range pulse weapon, and even gave him a shock shield. Dre joined them too, flying the ship with quiet focus, saying little, but watching everything. He'd lost people to collectors before, and, though he never said it, he wanted revenge too. Their target was a cargo cruiser registered under Resha's name. It traveled alone through the inner belt, carrying specimens from a new breeding facility. Callan's plan was risky. They'd board it during a system update window, when its AI would be blind for 5 minutes. When they reached the edge of the cruiser's scanner range, Tilia stood in the center of the cargo bay, eyes closed, hands trembling. You don't have to do this, Callan said. She looked at him, steady now. Yes, I do. They launched toward the cruiser in a silent shuttle masked by asteroid debris. As they docked, the cruiser's lights flickered. System reset active. 5 minutes. They moved fast, Callan taking point, Tilia right. Behind him, Hector stayed behind, guiding them through a hacked comlink. Left corridor, 2 guards, weak armor, Hector whispered. Callan fired his pulse weapon. Quick bursts of blue light dropped both guards. Tilia grabbed a keycard, swiped open the lab door, and stopped cold. Inside, 4 alien girls sat in cages. Silent. Blinking. Terrified, Tilia stepped in slowly, whispering, in their tongue, "You're safe now," one of the girls cried. The others didn't move, too afraid. Callan cursed under his breath. "We don't have time." Tilia knelt and opened each cage, guiding them gently. "We'll take them to the shuttle," she said. "Even if we fail, they won't go back." Suddenly, alarms blared. Raisha's override had kicked in early. 3 minutes left. Hector shouted through the comm, "You need to run." Tilia turned to Callan. "Get them out, I'll copy the data." "No," Callan said, grabbing her arm. "Not alone." But she had already moved, running to the main terminal, fingers flying over keys. He carried one of the smaller girls, guiding the others to the shuttle while Tilia stayed behind. Download complete. She pulled the chip and sprinted back just as 2 enforcers charged in. One grabbed her arm, slamming her against the wall. She screamed, kicking hard, the data chip slipping. From her hand, Callan turned, saw her fall, and didn't think. He charged forward, tackling the enforcer. They rolled, fists flying, until Callan shocked him with his shield, dropping him cold. Tilia grabbed the chip and limped toward the shuttle, bleeding from her lip. They made it back with seconds to spare, the shuttle launching. Just as Resha's cruiser activated full defenses, too late, they vanished into the belt again, safe. For now, inside the ship, the rescued girls huddled together and Tilia sat beside them, holding the chip. Callan sat beside her, wrapping a cloth around her scraped knuckles. "You did it," he said softly. "No," she whispered. "We did." And far away, the data began spreading across the underground networks, proof of what Resha had done. The galaxy would know. And Tilia was no longer just a runaway. She was a fighter. Weeks passed since the data chip was released across the galaxy. Whispers turned to gasps, then outrage. The name Lord Resha was no longer feared. It was hated. His labs were shut down, his ships hunted, and his buyers exposed. The galaxy had seen the truth, and it all started with a stained shirt. Now, in a quiet corner of a forested Earth colony, Tilia sat on a porch, sunlight warming her silver-green skin. She hummed softly, holding a small bowl of water and a familiar old shirt in her lap. The same shirt she had, once ruined, the same shirt she had promised to clean. But this time she washed it slowly, not because she was afraid, but because she cared. Behind her, Callan stepped outside, wiping grease from his hands. He'd been fixing a solar panel. Something peaceful for a change. He smiled when he saw her. "Still washing that thing?" Tilia looked up, laughing softly. "It's the first thing that ever brought me luck." "It smells like smoke and old paint now," he teased. "It smells like home," she said quietly. Inside the small house, the 4 rescued girls played. With paper crafts and music toys, they laughed, free and safe, no longer caged. Tilia had become something of a big sister to them. She taught them how to braid their hair, how to speak Earth words, how to trust again. Callan walked over and sat beside her, stretching his legs. "You've changed," he said, looking at her. "You don't flinch anymore." "I sleep through the night," she said proudly. "No more nightmares." "Do you miss space?" he asked. Tilia smiled gently. "Sometimes," she admitted, "but not like before." She looked at the trees, the blue sky, the breeze that didn't smell like metal. "I didn't know I could live like this," she whispered. "No chains, no walls, just air and light." "You deserve it," Callan said. "You earned all of it." She paused, then looked at him seriously. "You never asked me why I really offered to wash your shirt that day." Callan tilted his head. "You said, 'It was an accident,'" Tilia nodded. It was, she said, but when I looked up and saw your face, I knew. Knew what? That you wouldn't hurt me, she said, her voice soft. That maybe, just maybe, you'd care. Callan looked at her, eyes warm. You took a big risk? She smiled. It saved my life. He leaned closer, voice quiet. It changed mine too. They sat in silence for a while, the sun beginning to dip below the trees. The girls inside giggled, playing a board game someone had gifted them. Peace felt strange, but good. Later that evening, they lit a small fire behind the house. Dre had sent them a message from another system. He was running safe routes now. Helping other escapees, Hector had gone deeper into hiding but continued spreading the truth. Tilia had found a new name, a new ID, and a new life. As the stars appeared above, Tilia held the shirt, clean now, folded neatly. She handed it to Callan, who laughed. I don't think I'll ever wear it again. Keep it anyway, she said. As a reminder. He raised an eyebrow. Reminder of what? She looked into his eyes, voice steady. That something small can change everything. He took it gently, then reached out and held her hand. No fear this time, no hesitation, just warmth. I was broken, she whispered. But you didn't treat me like I was. Callan nodded slowly. You were never broken, Tilia. You were just waiting for someone to see you. She leaned her head on his shoulder, closing her eyes. The fire crackled, the children laughed, and the stars above sparkled like soft promises. For the first time in her life, Tilia didn't feel hunted. She felt home, and far away, in places still dark and cruel, other girls whispered her name. The one who escaped, the one who fought, the one who changed everything, and it all began with a stained shirt,